All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the KPMG session, Accelerating Adoption of Low and No Code Technology in Financial Services. What a day it has been. Some of the great speakers so far, very fun, very interactive. We are joining you live here from New York, DC, and LA. So please help us in making this a live and interactive session. Please ask questions as they come to your mind, and we'll try our best to answer all your questions through the session, and then we'll leave some time in the end to answer some more questions as well. So let's start with intros. My name is Harvinder Bhatia, and I'm a principal in KPMG, and I will be your moderator for this session. I am joined here by my esteemed colleagues, Paul Deitch and Raj Kunduru, who are my partners in crime on this low and no code journey. We hope that you will find this session interactive and informative. And again, please do ask questions. You can post your questions in the Q&A tab, and we will address that as they kind of come, as we see them. So with that, let's get into the material. So starting with the intros first, again, my name is Harvey, and I'm a principal in KPMG. I lead our financial services low and no code practice. And I'm also the alliance leader for the Uncork and KPMG relationship. I have 22 years of experience in consulting and industry. I worked in 3 countries, and I live in New York with my wife, Anjali. I love to run, cook, and volunteer. So that's a little bit about me. Paul, why don't I hand over to you for you to do your intros as well?
All right. Thanks, Harvey. That may be the first time I've ever been called esteemed, but I'll take it. So I'm Paul Deitch. I'm a partner. I run KPMG's alternative investment consulting practice. And I have 3 decades of FS experience. 2 of those decades have been in industry, 1 decade in consulting. And through that entire career, I've been working on implementing package solutions as well as custom applications for really most of that time. I started my career in banking. I moved into alternative investments about 15 years ago. I've held management positions at Oaktree Capital, Bank of America, and ran a small fintech firm in marketplace lending called Patch of Land as well. I live in Los Angeles. I have 3 kids. I have 3 grandchildren. 2 of those grandchildren I had with me all weekend long. So although it might be Tuesday, I have to admit I'm probably still recovering from the weekend. So look forward to being here and having this conversation. Thanks, Harvey.
Awesome. Thank you. And Raj, you want to go next?
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Raj Kunduru. I'm partner at KPMG as well, and I lead our modern technology practice. It's a karmic connection that I started my career as an engineer building one of the first low-code platforms during the dot-com era. But, truth to be told, neither Gartner nor any of the marketing geniuses have coined the name no-code, low-code at that time. And fast forward 20 years, I'm now helping some of the large global clients in building market differentiating capabilities on low code. On the personal front, I live in Washington, D.C. And then if the consulting career ever isn't promising for me, I aim to be a director in a Bollywood movie. Back to you, Harvey.
So unfortunately, I'm not as creative as Raj, so I need to keep this job. So let's get into, so hopefully that you know us a little better now. Let's just get into the session, right? So as you know, the session is all about kind of us sharing our perspective and insights around how we've been helping our clients accelerate their journey into the low code and no code space. As you all know, financial services industry is going through unprecedented changes, right? Starting with recovery from the pandemic, safe return to work, being top of mind for all the executives. Our clients are dealing with a number of challenges, right? And I wish we had time to go into all of those challenges. But for today's conversation, we wanted to focus our conversation into 3 challenges, right? The first one that applies to asset, wealth, and insurance industry is the fee, premium, and margin compression. And when I say fee, premium, and margin compression, it's really all about high cost of operations. It's about increased competition, especially from fintech players. And it's also the legacy tech stack and legacy technology systems that they have that's really keeping their costs up. But at the same time, the investors are asking for lower fees and they want to kind of pay low and low. So I mean, take an example of Fidelity, right? Fidelity is offering zero fee funds to their investors. So while Fidelity is not charging their clients in any fee, they still have to pay the fund. So that's where kind of the margin compressions are coming in. Vanguard is another example that's offering record low fee to their funds, and the list goes on, right? So with all this comes the pressure of driving ops excellence to deliver more with less and to automate. And this is really a sweet spot for the low and no code systems. So with that in mind, Paul, let me ask you my first question. What are you seeing in the alternative investment industry? And why do you think the industry is gravitating to low and no code platforms? And how have you helped them improve their margins?
So, Ari, let me talk a little bit about, for those of you who may be less familiar with the alternative investment space, there are really three drivers that are influencing the adoption of no and low code platforms. And those all center around a better understanding of their margins. So we have one, the alternative business is becoming more and more aware of their business unit profitability measurements. Probably something they're a little late to the game in, but I would say they've understand that not all products are created equal. And so there's a much keener awareness of profitability and margins, which vary a lot by products. You combine that awareness with what is a very, very high compensation environment, right? A portfolio manager in one of these firms can easily be making $1 million a year. So when you start to think about their time, when you look at their the opportunity cost of using that resource to do administrative tasks, it becomes extraordinarily costly. And so opportunities to move those activities either to automation or to other lower cost resources become significant. And as you may be aware, these firms make money by doing deals. The more deals they do, the more money they make. So the individuals who make these deals are these portfolio managers, and they need to be freed up. And I think the last driver in the industry is there are no great package solutions from deal sourcing all the way through client reporting. Systems have to be stitched together, and many of the package solutions actually don't address the specific needs of these firms. And their needs are quite bespoke and unique and can vary by fund and asset class. So they're turning to no and low code solutions to solve these issues. So I'll give an example of one area where we've had some very significant success. We're working with a large alternatives firm, probably about 50 billion in AUM. They're part of a multi-trillion-dollar fund complex, and they invest in everything: real estate, private equity, private credit, SPACs, insurance-linked securities, structured products, you name it, they buy it. And the problem statement that they experience, as do all alternative investment managers, is on a quarterly basis, they have to re-underwrite every single investment to ensure that they have the value right in order to strike a NAV of their fund. There is extensive documentation required. There's templates requiring update and data transformation, many, many layers of approvals through committees. You end up with all of this data locked up in spreadsheets. And probably the biggest issue is you have $1 million a year employees doing administrative work. So why have they turned to no and low code solutions? So we're working with this client to digitize the workflow, extract the administrative tasks and move them to a lower cost resource, automate the approvals, automate the ingestion and reporting of data, do all of the document storage. And obviously the no and low code platforms like an Unqork is perfectly designed to do this. But the magic of what we've been able to do is take a very unusual or bespoke set of inconsistent workflows and create an assembly line so we could bring the work to the right resource at the right cost at the right time. We've been able to extract 50% of the hours out of the process for this client. And when you start to think of a process that was 10,000 hours and freeing up 5,000 hours of these employees who are making $1 million a year, it can do more deals. It really becomes quite substantial in terms of improving margins and freeing up opportunity costs.
That's great, Paul. And I think just to kind of add to that, right, in addition to kind of what you mentioned, it's also the great experience now that we are providing to the portfolio managers, right? Because making $1 million a year, I'm sure they don't want to do any administrative work. So that's amazing that we can actually take that administrative work away from them, which really I think is a great segue into the next challenge that we wanted to talk about, which we all experience right now with our nephews, our nieces, our millennials, our Gen Zs, which is all about client experience, right? Everyone's looking for a great client experience, a superior client experience. And I think we can all blame the likes of Amazon, Apple, and Netflix for providing the superior client experience to their clients, wherein clients are really looking for how can I have self-servicing options, right? How can I do things myself rather than calling advisors, my relationship managers, and call centers to get things done, right? And then add to that seamless onboarding and buying experience. I was actually on a call right before this session with another client, and what they mentioned was that the client onboarding is really the moment of truth for the client, because that's their first interaction with the firm, and they're looking for nothing but the best experience. And really, this is where I believe the low-code, no-code solutions are shining, and they're providing. If I take an example of wealth and asset management, it's all about providing those modern and custom portals to the investors, which is really helping to improve the experience. And Raj, I'm sure this kind of applies in insurance as well. So, kind of taking an example of client experience, can you share like what we have done in the insurance industry and how you've been helping your clients to provide and deliver a superior experience to their insurers and agents?
So certainly, right, Harvey, like I say all the time, it's my favorite topic, and I got to appreciate this a lot more ever since my son turned 10 and I gave him a smartphone. Now, he uninstalls every app where he has to click more than once. So then I realized that I can only imagine once my son turns 22 and he has a bank account, trust me, and I'm not going to name the name of the bank, but he's not going to use that experience at all. So, I think, Harvey, you summarize it, right? Like the likes of Google, Amazon, and Uber, they have mastered the art of making it easy to buy goods and services. I mean, to the point wherein like a 10-year-old can actually do it easily. Now, what is it again? Right? Kudos to them. They did it, but they were all born digital. For a lack of a better word, they were all born digital. Now, the thing right now with the customers is they don't really differentiate, saying that if the Googles can do it, why can't my insurance companies and banks can do it? But in the defense of the banks, naturally, working in the financial services for over a decade, they have a huge legacy tech debt, right? They have these massive core systems in the insurance, like the policy admin systems and all of them. It's not that easy to put a shrink wrap and to do it. And I think, as a technologist, I'll be honest with you, I was also had my own doubts when I said, okay, is it really the new buzzword called low code? And then when I joined the journey, Harvey, you and I joined the journey like 3 years back, it is phenomenal. Now, this is exactly where Uncork shines, right? One is you can build an amazingly easy, great customer experience thing in the UI. But more importantly, though, it can seamlessly integrate with the legacy systems, third-party systems like DocuSign, LexisNexis, you name it. So as a proof point, over the last 6 months, it's not an exaggeration that we helped more than 10 insurance clients in terms of automating the rate, quote, and bind. So this is the kind of a thing traditionally has been, you get a quote today, and then you wait for another days, and then it takes about 3 to 4 days, or sometimes even weeks, to get a underwriting quote from your agent. In this example, with the power of really the Uncork and the architecture chassis that we've been helping the clients on both sides, we are able to digitize it. Then today, like the quick quotes, we are able to underwrite this one in a matter of 60 seconds. The things that used to take two days to anywhere from 3 weeks. So really, that is something that I'm a profound believer, having delivered so many for our clients, that this is really possible indeed. Anything to add, Harvey?
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Raj. And I think you kind of hit the nail in the coffin here, right? It's all about, as you mentioned, kind of delivering the right experience and kind of doing it timely, right? So let's maybe talk a little bit about. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the Q&A, and it looks like there were some technical difficulties, but it's just a matter of for someone who's having that difficulty, if you can refresh your browser, that should solve it. So then going back into our third challenge that we wanted to talk about, and Paul, I'm going to punt this one to you, right? This is really all about the recognition to the time to market imperative, right? As we all know, it's no longer about who can come up with the best and the most innovative product in the marketplace. It's all about who will do it first and gain that first mover advantage, right? And I personally come across many clients where the product teams are working at 10x the speed compared to the rest of the organization. However, it's still taking them months, if not years, to get the product out in the market. And that's interestingly an area that low and no code products are shining at. So, Paul, with that background in mind, we know that there's a big push from the asset and wealth managers to extend the private market access for high net worth investors. How are you helping your clients in this space with their time to market needs?
Yeah, so Harvey, and I've only been, as you know, doing no and low code work for probably the last year or so, not the 3 that Raj has been doing this. And it has been the most amazing experience because I come from, 30 years of doing more traditional development. And this is the area that I've been probably the most surprised, and I see one of the biggest advantages. And, the fact that we measure delivery in weeks is, it's just a whole game changer from my perspective, having been in environments where we measured in months and years. An example of as we recently, and by the way, nowhere is this more important than in software firms where a first mover advantage is a huge deal and it really can set you up for success in a much better way, being first to market with something. We've been working with a very large global software provider in the wealth space. And, they have and identified an opportunity to solve a problem that exists for wealth managers. On the one side of the wealth manager equation, you have rich people, right? High net worth clients that have money and they're wanting things besides public markets. They're wanting to buy into alternatives. And those alternatives sit with companies like Blackstone and Apollo and, Oaktree and other organizations. And so in between, the wealth manager sits. And the challenge is that to democratize this asset class, there's a tremendous amount of paperwork that flies back and forth between the asset manager on one side and the wealth client on the other. You've got this excessive number of Excel documents, PDFs. All of the transactions are on delayed settlements, and those delays can be 3 months, 6 months, 18 months. You have very complex redemption rules. They can be bespoke by fund manager. No 2 funds or 2 share classes will be the same. You can have, if you're a wealth manager, you can have thousands of transactions pending settlement. You get episodic calls for capital. You can't plan them, but when they happen, they're time sensitive. It's 100% people dependent. It's a completely manual control environment. It's absolutely a red hot mess if you're a wealth manager trying to distribute this to your clients. But yet, the alternatives business is growing at a 10% CAGR. Everyone wants it, and it's a great way to diversify away from public markets. So this software provider identified the issue, and they brought in KPMG to help solve the issue. And, obviously we bring the uncorked chops, but that's really table stakes. I think what they were looking at is they wanted a provider who understood the industry, but more importantly than even understanding the industry, it was about how do you reimagine this process in a completely different metaphor to implement software, because now you have this huge tool belt when you have the Uncork platform. And I think the real punchline here is not about the mess, not about what we were able to configure. We did a very small due diligence project, and then we put configurers on the ground. In 11 weeks, we had implementable software and could be in the market with a solution to wealth clients and proposing on work. Now, we're about to, we believe, close our first deal there. But I would never in my wildest dream imagine to bring workable software that could be resold to clients in an 11-week time frame. So I think it's a great example, and it's exciting to be part of all of it.
Yeah, and then Paul, I would say that I always love seeing the shine in your eyes when you gave the feedback at 5 o'clock, and next day at 9 o'clock it was done and it was ready for us to present that to you in the system. And I think that's really the beauty and power of low code, right? Or no code, that we can actually bring ideas to life very, very quickly. And we've seen a lot of clients doing a lot of prototyping in Uncork. So long gone are those days wherein clients were using PowerPoints to share their ideas with their senior executives. Now it's, let us show you how this would actually work in the real life, right? So that's really amazing. So thank you again, Rajan and Paul, for your insights on the client challenges. Let's transition to our next topic. But before we do that, I again wanted to remind the audience that we are live today. So please send us your questions, and we will do our best to answer them throughout the session. So now that we've covered the drivers, the environmental drivers, and our clients' response and select use cases, the next topic that we wanted to cover was how the KPMG team has been helping our clients succeed with their low and no code journey. I started with Uncork, or the journey with Uncork, 3.5 years back. And in the past 3.5 years, we have now built a global team of 200 plus professionals that are trained and certified in the Uncork platform. And we have delivered over 40 digital assets on the Uncork platform. And we've done all flavors of use cases, starting from client onboarding and servicing, so that retail clients, institutional clients, agent onboarding, and plan sponsor onboarding in the retirement space, right? We've also built, Paul, you kind of gave the example of the modern UI, which is the front door access to legacy systems and is providing a better experience to the ops team and to these portfolio managers because they no longer have to do the administrative tasks. We had clients who used the Uncork platform to build marketplaces for insurance carriers to sell their products and take their products to a broader client base. And last but not the least, and you gave that example as well, Paul, the workflow solution to drive operational excellence and visibility into a multi-party and often disjointed processes. My colleague Raj here has been instrumental in helping us build a global and sustainable delivery model that can deliver digital low-code products in an expedited fashion. So Raj, can I request you to maybe share a little bit about the global delivery model that you've built for us, and how have we kept up with the pace and promises of Uncork?
Okay. So, Harvey and Paul, just like, an engineer cannot not think of anything other than Carson assembly line. So I'll start with an analogy with that. And then that kind of truthfully summarizes why we emphasize so much on the delivery model, right? It's like, if for someone to win a NASCAR race, they definitely need a great car, but they also have to be a great driver. So in this analogy, guys, obviously, I'm talking about the great car as Uncork, but the great driver is really a delivery model. So if without a great delivery model, even with the power of Uncork, it's not easy to unleash the true potential of Uncork. Then we said, they've been agile, they're safe, they're Scrum, they're Kanban, you name it, many, many things. But the reality is, when the low code, no code is actually building software in nothing like it was done before, even our delivery model had to be pretty unique. So we built it on three facets, right? Like 3 dimensions per se. One was the velocity. The velocity was, I can drag and drop, I can create, I can seamlessly integrate and connect with any API very easily. But if I don't have the velocity in terms of that is a combination of around the clock, what we call in KPMG, I'm guessing many of you are used to, it's called the follow the sun model. So there is a 24-hour round-the-clock delivery model across our global delivery centers, right, in Australia, India, and US. That's one part. But then, Paul did touch upon it, is it's not just the power of Uncork or the knowledge of Uncork. I'm sure you can get it in the boot camp. But how do you mix it up with the industry knowledge, the domain expertise, once you combine them, and how you create a role structure? So all of these things were brought in to make it really the velocity. Right? So that's one. Then the second part is the value. And the value part is, you take any traditional software development, there are software engineers, there are DevOps engineers, there are infrastructure folks, there are CI/CD pipeline, a product owner, Scrum Master, and all of that. But now again, if I put in 11 roles and they say that, okay, now make it faster, honestly, it's not going to be cheaper for you. So there is a way on how we brought in all of these roles into literally like 6 or 5 different roles, very optimized, but everyone plays multiple hats in here. And that's exactly how we bring the value to deliver on the promise of Uncork of, do more with less. And then lastly is the quality. Like I said, I was struggling to get a synonym with another V, but fourth language English, I couldn't find a synonym for quality with a V. The quality is, there are many, many metrics. If you look at the safe agile, like the burn down charts and all of them, but honestly, there is this one most rigid metric called the first time quality. Essentially, in 60 seconds or 30 seconds, what it means is when the first time when we show the feature or a functionality to an end client, what is the quality metric that it meets its demands is a first time quality. So we've been using that one that actually drives the velocity, that actually drives the value and the quality. If the industry average of the first time quality is around 85%, I think we've been consistently 90 plus. And so that's how I think with the global delivery model, we have our own enablement, by the way, and we have built in multiple of these building blocks, both widgets that are, that, like, for instance, you have a DocuSign. There is a way to do a DocuSign, but then I think we have built an accelerator on top of Uncork that makes it even more faster. So with all of these things, folks, it has really been an amazing journey. And then it's a growing catalog of our solutions and our patents. Anyway,
Yeah.
Hart, I think this is something that I can go on all night. So let me take a pause and hand it back to you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much, Raj. And I think the first time quality, I heard that term from you 2 years back and I was like, what does that mean? And it's amazing what the team has been able to do to kind of deliver very high 90% plus first time quality to our clients, right? I think one more thing I would mention on the global model is like Uncork is not a US firm anymore. It's a global firm. We've been working globally with our member firms in UK and in Australia and Japan and others to kind of partner with Uncork in building and replicating some of our successes in the US. So that gets me to the last topic, Paul, here, and that's really around like how are we differentiating ourselves in the marketplace, right? When it comes to building new and innovative solutions, and how are we making sure that, to your point, you mentioned that it's about reinventing, right? It's about redesigning, it's about replanning, right? So how are you bringing some of your industry experience to co-build innovative low and no code solutions with our clients?
Well, Harvey, I think, and you and I have been talking a lot about it, but I think we're really starting to see what is a very notable change, even in now how KPMG is responding to having access and doing these initiatives in the no-low code space. So not only is it transforming our clients and how they're doing business, but we're starting to see new models on our side that we've not done in the past. And so I want to explain how we kind of get there. Usually we get called into a process because the client wants us to configure and use our industry experience to help them solve a problem with Uncork. And we always find a couple things that are consistent. One is the process is always more complicated than anyone ever really thought. And it's always been built with a very insular view by the management team who's been there, which is just normal. And the third thing, which I'm actually not an engineer by background, I'm a biology major. So when I look at these environments, I always think about how did they evolve? And what you always see is the management team had access to Excel, email, and SharePoint. And so they evolved the process with the tools that were given to them, because usually the technology teams are at full capacity. And you get this when you try to hammer a nail with the tool of a screwdriver, you don't get a great outcome. And the issue that a lot of these firms is that they have a very, very small toolkit that the management team is working with. So all of a sudden, here comes Uncork and KPMG with a massive tool belt to be able to use. You have screwdrivers and hammers and planes and wrenches and tools that you actually don't even know are on that tool belt. But as you go through your journey, you learn. I learn something every day that's on that tool belt that I'm using, and we use it to the maximum amount. And what it allows us to do is, back to the same word I've been using, is to reimagine the process with this massive tool belt, I have not yet found, if I've thought of it and I think that the system should be able to do it, when I do enough research and get the right architects in the room, we generally find that it can do what I can imagine, which really is what allows us the flexibility to build things that are pretty magical. So now what does that mean to us? Well, what's happened is we at KPMG are starting to reimagine how we work with clients and starting to co-invest in solutions that we think have legs in the market, where we become co-owners and we discuss who owns what IP, because we can reuse it in the marketplace. So we see co-investments, we see co-ownerships, we see go-to-markets. We have a 115-year-old firm we're talking about here, but this is really not your grandfather's accounting firm anymore. We are really seeing a new way of operating where we are partnering with clients in a very, very different way. And I don't want to claim that we've even seen all the various combinations, but the combinations are there. And it's something that's definitely worth clients and us and Uncork all exploring together.
Awesome. That's a great point, Paul. And the world is changing, and glad you're changing with the world as well. I do see the first question that I'm very excited about here. So the question is, and I'll let me read the question first. It says, how easy do you find it to introduce Uncork to colleagues or clients who know little to nothing about no code? Do you experience initial hesitance, especially for non-technical people? And how do you overcome this? Raj, do you want to take that one?
Wow, I think it's as if it was one of the KPMG guys who had orchestrated our next question. So I think I'm sure it was not one of our KPMG. Honestly, guys, this is really one of the things that we want to talk about is really how do you get started, right? How do we get started? In fact, what we are calling it as called a low-code center of excellence. How Home Depot says it, you can do it, we can help. So similarly, Uncork, right, by all means, they make it pretty easy with their boot camps. And then, the way the UI is built out, it's pretty self-explanatory in the way you do it. But the reality is low code or no code doesn't really mean no architecture, no design on other parts. But at the same time, you don't have to do it in the traditional way. So we've been helping out all the learnings that we went in to build our delivery model over the last 3 years, right, into an industrial thing. Even we tested it over the COVID, where none of our colleagues have seen each other, but we have actually started and implemented 23 client enterprise class applications during the COVID time. So what we have done is we have summarized all of our learnings into a solution called a low-code center of excellence. So that is the one. What it helps is now you have a great tool. Again, taking back on what Paul just said is, I have a tool, but I need to use it for the right solution from the point of testing what are the right use cases to build on, and what is the right architecture. How do you define that? To how do I integrate within your DevSecOps pipeline so that it's not completely disruptive to your existing software development lifecycle to do it, right? So that's exactly what we help them. And what I would say is, if we take a massive project, again, I'll take one example that we have done on the insurance companies from an agent portal of the least complicated thing all the way to implementing an insurance marketplace, right? With 9 insurance things, and then anything in gamut. What I would say is that start with a use case that is something that you guys can experiment on, learn through while you're building the whole chassis. That the chassis is not just the technology, but the operating model around that. And once you build it, then you can scale. But if you don't take the initial time to build in the operating model around that one thing, then you're never going to reap the benefits of the no code.
I would add to that, Raj, that I think the other thing that has really been successful in talking to folks that don't know much about the low code, no code environment or are not believers yet is by showing them what it actually does, right? So it's no longer telling the story; it's actually showing and demonstrating how quickly we can bring applications to life, right? And that's been one of the approach that we've taken with multiple clients, where we go to them and say, give us your challenge and give us 2 days to come back to you and show you how your product's going to look like in Uncork, right? And I think that's opened a lot of minds for us, right? And Gary was talking to Amy earlier today when kind of they opened the session, and I think Amy was mentioning that from PFG was mentioning that her first meeting, and that was with Uncork, was the day before her investor meeting, right? And she walked in, and the first 30 seconds was what got her sold to the low code, no code platforms, right? And the fact that she knew they had to learn from Uncork, from a pioneer company, from an innovative company that's coming up with new and innovative solutions. And Uncork had to learn from PFG to kind of learn more about the industry and what works and doesn't work in the industry. I think that's also the winning proposition here, right? To be open and kind of go in the room with an open mind.
Oh, agreed.
So just looking at the time here, Raj, another question for you, right? So this is, I think, and we get a question a lot, right? Like, why low code, no code compared to traditional software, right? And why not go the traditional software route where we can build things ourselves versus relying on a third party platform, right? How have we helped kind of clients overcome that challenge and barrier?
I think it definitely, right? And then the reality is it's not a 0 or 1 answer, right? If you look at the gamut of a complete package solution, a turnkey solution to the one extreme, think of it as the ERPs, and all the way to the other extreme is a completely custom solution. The low code, honestly, is the best of both, right? The reality being you have the core building blocks, but you have the flexibility to make it custom. Now, the question comes in is, when do I need to use a low code, right? And then why? So there are parts of your application, there are parts of your business functionality that are very unique. But then you can actually build a custom thing, right? So let's take it in a very recent engagement, Harvey, for an insurance firm. This is the insurance firm that had a lot of pride of, if it's not built here, it's not good. Right, that was really the foundational guiding principle. So everything they took a lot of pride in building from ground up. Everything from the UI to the middleware to the chassis, they did that. And when we and Uncork partnered and we told them how fast you could do it, it literally was a 12-week exercise for them to realize that indeed you could do this one, and this is actually real from the custom code. Where I think the custom code, again, there are some parts of it I'll still tell you that some of our friends from the low code or even Uncork may not agree. There are some parts of it where the custom code will still be there. But I would say for 80% of them, so exactly where the low code comes into picture, right? I look at the assembly line of a software development lifecycle. From the developers of the IDE, and all the software that I need on my desktop to write the code. Then I need something to compile and run and deploy all of this, not to mention the version control, not to mention all the Jenkins pipelines and things like that. I'm really, without exaggeration, there are 64 on an average applications of software that would come in all the way from static code analysis part. Now imagine all of those 64 are bundled into a one package thing. How much of the IT complexity has it reduced, right? So if I have to start today in some of the banks where we have our developers starting, for them to write the first line of code, it takes them 6 weeks to procure the laptop to get every software installed. Honestly, in 6 weeks, we are actually putting something in production. So that is really the beauty, right? And again, all of these 65 moving parts, they have different versions, they have dependencies, they have vulnerabilities, and all of them. Now what you're saying is, okay, Uncork, all of that is in your box of the SaaS. You take care of the static code analysis, the vulnerability assessment, and all of them. Yours is GDPR, SOC 2 Type 2 compliant. Let me just focus on building it, right? I think that is the beauty on how when you put it all together, naturally, were we able to explain it on day one? It would be arrogant for us to say yes, no. But then once we put it all of these things to say across the tooling, across the process, across the roles, it is an obvious choice. And naturally, Harvey, you know me, 3 years back, I think I was actually also fighting that, oh, come on, this is not real, right? Let's just go the custom development way. But definitely, I think you guys have to see it to believe it. But I like what you said, Harvey, is instead of putting this in a PowerPoint or instead of talking to the talking points, take a use case, build it in 2 to 3 days, and then see the reality.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Raj. That was very valuable. So I think that gets us to almost the end of our session. There are a couple of things that we wanted to kind of leave the audience with, right? So I think Paul and Raj, if there is one advice that you would give to the clients who are venturing onto this journey, this low code and no code journey, what would that be and why? And Paul, I'll start with you.
So, well, I think, first of all, I am probably the oldest guy in the virtual room here, I'm guessing, not just on this stage, but maybe in this room. I have been doing software development since 1989. And I'm guessing there are a lot of people in the virtual room that may not even have been born in 1989. And, give it a comparison point, in the old days, we would sit in months and months of these JAD sessions. I don't even know if that word still exists, the joint application development sessions. And we would go endlessly for months and months. And then we would break and the developers would go for months and months and months. And 6 months later, 8 months later, something would come out the other end. And it was nothing like what the users had wanted. And it's just was this endless loop. It was very exhausting. And the results weren't actually great. Everything was measured in years. And I'm sharing that perspective because, Harvey, you dragged me into this world kicking and screaming about a year ago. I was not a believer. I was not doubling down on this. And I can honestly tell you, I'm having the time of my life working on these platforms. I mean, I am getting up in the morning, 5 a.m. here on the West Coast. I have my coffee and I do demos every single morning. And I get to see what happened in the application over 24 hours. And if there's something I don't like, it's changed by tomorrow. And generally, with the configuration team we have, they like to show off. So they try to change it while we're in the half-hour meeting. We meet with a client twice a week, and their words that they share on Tuesday come to life on Thursday. It is really a game changer. And what I'll say is I share that because I'm so enthusiastic. So if you're looking for my advice to people, if you are not in it, you should jump into it. I think the other point, you need to reimagine the process. Do not be bound by what you see exists today. Yeah. Learn about the toolkit. The opportunities are huge. If you can imagine it, it's probably been done by someone. I also suggest deliver results quickly and iterate. Doesn't have to be perfect. Your words will come to life as you review the platform. Get some results quickly and then iterate from there. So those are sort of my 3 recommendations, Harvey.
That's awesome, Paul. Thank you so much. And I know you said you were excited about the 5 a.m. demos, and I'm also working with the development team that were actually worried about the 5 a.m. demos with you. I'm just kidding. I think the team is delivering excellent product there. Raj, what would be your advice to our clients who are venturing on this journey?
The end advice is same as Paul, but I'll use a different story to get to that end, right? The end advice is definitely, you guys have, for all the CIOs on the call here, if you guys have a massive tech debt and then you're trying to digitize and you're unable to do it, how do you, shrink wrap around it and then build it in low code is really one great choice, right? So there's multiple things, but I'll tell you, Harvey, as a manager and as a technologist born and raised in management consultant, we're all guilty of, talking about KPIs or all Google calls it OKRs, the same thing, is the 2 things that are so overused and underachieved metric. One is time to market and really the quality of service or the customer experience, right? I mean, we've been seeing it for over the decades. But when I talk about something like a rate code and bind kind of an example where, let alone creating a new product, I'm working right now we're helping an insurance firm changing the rate on an existing product. I kid you not, folks, they are only changing it once a year because apparently it takes them 9 months to change the rate on a product and push it into production. So that's why it is only done once a year, whereas the business and operations is screaming, saying that, okay, rate changes don't go by the calendar year or the birthday cycles. They go by market conditions. Why can't you change it? So let alone a new product, but now we are putting in new products, like brand new product. I mean, we have done like life, annuity, and complex annuity products from soup to nuts in like less than 3 months, right? And then again, when I say we're not just doing it as in I'm just building a digital chassis, right? This is something wherein we are building a digital application end to end, all the way from taking the application, validating the information, and doing the DocuSign, getting into your policy admin systems and underwriting systems, and so on and so forth. Right? Having seen that part, it is definitely something that if you have those metrics, and then if your business is saying that, okay, is it really real? You may want to get in, and certainly we'll be happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you, Raj. And I think what I would say from my personal experience is that low code, no code is not a sprint; it's a marathon.
Yeah.
You definitely need to commit. I think that is number one. You need to commit. You need to have a plan, and you need to start somewhere and stay focused. So my advice to you would be pick a use case or two. Make sure you have the right plan and the right coach to help you through the journey. And believe and move forward. And that's the best way for you to kind of see the output of the platform and what you can get from the product and how soon you can get new applications out in your ecosystem. So with that, I do see another question, and I was smiling when I was seeing that question. The question is, do we feel confident in implementing Uncork at our clients independently without support from the company? And I think by company, you mean Uncork. Is it intuitive when it comes to advanced functionality? So let me try to answer this question. I think the first thing I would say is we are very much in partnering with Uncork on the implementations, right? So we have a team that brings professional services experience. That is our engagement manager, solution architects, our config specialists, and our testing. And Uncork has the expert services team that we work with on a kind of, we are almost like working on a daily basis, right? And together we are envisioning the right design for our clients, and we are building solutions that are not just good for a use case, but that can be scaled and are scalable for an enterprise adoption. So that's how we are really working together. It's not a matter of us working on Cork, it's us working together to bring the right products out in the market.
I'll just add one other thing, Harvey, is, we have seen the beauty for us, at least, right? Again, it gives me a lot of pleasure when I say that is we have seen the platform grow as well, right? Again, I'm part of their product advisory board as well. And then when I see the platform, how many features are built in, be it in terms of the chassis of how they're integrating or the different features that come in terms of, again, I'm definitely getting a geeky ear in terms of the proxy patterns and all of them. We have seen the platform grow so much that also helped us is that not just building applications on top of it, we kind of know under the hood as well, right? So because we know under the hood as well, we can independently work with Uncork. And then many of the architects, like maybe Harvey, I think when we started with Uncork was less than 50 people. So, and then we might have seen, I don't know, maybe 15 releases to their product during the time that we were there. So I think that kind of gives us the advantage of joy of, where the platform is building and then we're building applications on top of a building platform. So it was definitely, right? I think that's one of the reasons I believe is also that we can really work independently.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a great point. So I think that's all we have for you guys today. We hope that you found this session informative and useful in your low and no code journey. We're happy to take any more questions that you have. If not, you can always post questions in our booth. We also have some material for you to download from a booth. So please do take some time to visit that. Send us any questions. You can drop any questions to the Uncork team, and they'll route it to us. But if not, enjoy getting a few minutes back in your schedule today to take a quick break and be ready for the next session. Thank you all, and enjoy the rest of the Uncork Create conference.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.